This is really exciting. So you're joining me on a Saturday morning, and I was hoping that we were just going to have a nice little chat. I finally figured out how to work my new camera this week, but we're not using that. I'm on my tablet. I know that you don't necessarily want to know that, but here it is. So Nomad Struggles is a series that I've just started. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek because I was all poised earlier on this week. I had the golden hour. It was like golden hour, golden sunlight. It was a perfect time to record. I put some lipstick on. That is pretty much the extent of my makeup routine. As you can tell, I'm not wearing any right now. And so I was ready to film, but the construction noise just carried on. So I'm opposite a building that is the structure of it. So shell and core. The structure of it is up, but the windows and doors are all missing, and it's not finished. So I think it's one of those cases where, and I've seen quite a few of the buildings around here that are like that, these tall apartment blocks where some of the apartments are finished and some of them are still kind of, well, they're under construction. So basically, if you go into one of those unfinished ones, it's literally just the structure. So the walls aren't painted, there's no floor finishes, there is no light fittings. I don't even know if the bathrooms are finished. They're probably not. The kitchens aren't installed. There's no furniture. That's what shell and core means. So that's your little crash course. Because it's something that's dawned on me is that I don't really see women like myself here. So I'm British born of African descent. I don't see women like me in or from technical fields like engineering here on YouTube. And the social media policy in my last job would have prevented me from even having a channel, because they said it was pretty intense. It was something like they were saying, and it's funny, for a company that didn't even have a DEI initiative, the social media policy was just there, and I was horrified. And it was along the lines of, you cannot, if you're an employee of the company, you cannot have social media accounts, and even if you do under an alias, it's unacceptable. But tell me why the HR manager / director, I don't know, that woman was forever changing her job title. I don't know what she's qualified in. But anyway, tell me why she was trying to befriend me on Instagram. And I was like, no thanks. I just ignored it. But one of the girls that I used to work with was like, oh no, well, she asked me, and she was just nosy. So she showed me the said HR managers / directors Instagram account. And I was like, why is she showing us her two-piece bikini / underwear and roses? WTH. So yeah, and she was like, yes, but I had to say yes. And it's like, because she was actually pally. Let me explain. I used to work in a company that basically I was one of a handful of women. Say there were 200 employees. I was maybe one of 20 women. And I want to say 3/4 of those women were in the support functions, whereas I was actually a technical manager, because I'm an engineer by trade, an engineer by formation. I went to university, studied engineering for 5 years. I did 2 masters because I have West African parents. And yeah, and then I ended up in UK construction. Oh my God. I hope you can't hear the drilling / grinding. I don't know what is going on next opposite, but that's the thing. That's what's ruined it for this Airbnb. It's still going to get a 5-star rating because it's lush. It's just lush, but this construction noise, and it's the noise of progress, because I've been in this situation in other parts of the world, not so far from here, just a stone's throw on the Greek island of Rhodes. The place was advertised as co-living, but it was really just a hotel in the off-peak season. they were doing maintenance inside the building. Like, I was in the co-working space, which was real, right? It wasn't just, the co-working space was real. And I was in there and I was like, but why does it feel like my skull is rattling inside my body? And it's very difficult for me to work under such circumstances, because you might think, oh, well, but you used to work in the construction industry. Yeah, in a London office on Tottenham Court Road, in the comfort on the 6th floor of an office building. Most of my time as an engineering consultant was spent indoors in an office, not on construction sites, because I was designing buildings, not building them, right? Anyway, so I will tell you more about my previous career if you find it interesting, just to kind of frame things. But yeah, so here I am, we're 6 minutes in. I may or may not, you know what, it's unlikely that I will edit this video, because the reality is I feel like I've been online since the eve of International Women's Day, because I was doing a push for my main business, which is all about women's health, specifically women with uterine fibroids. And I've said uterine fibroids like 100 times at this point. I said it on a LinkedIn Live. And the only reason it was a LinkedIn Live is because, I'm not even gonna lie, it was the only one of my social media accounts that I could link from StreamYard with ease, without having to read too much, or, yeah, it just seemed, I do have the ability to go live on TikTok and on, well, here, funnily enough, on YouTube. But yeah, so I have a LinkedIn Live masterclass about uterine fibroids, but specifically how to prepare for fibroid surgery, because uterine fibroids is, it's part of my story. It's part of my origin story as to why I quit the corporate world in the first place. And what I love and hate about social media is there I am pouring out my heart. You know, now that I'm free from the corporate job and free from that social media policy, and I'm able to write and speak, and so I've got a podcast and a Medium blog. Sorry, my glasses are wonky. Yeah, I have those things, and I realize that it still feels, for me online, it still feels that you're not real unless you show your face. So kudos to all those channels, faceless channels, you know, that are killing it on social media. Well done to you. I wish I had figured that out. Although I do have like a couple of secret accounts that are completely faceless. You might see my hands, but that's it. So anyway, yeah, now you can probably hear the drilling and grinding, and I apologize. Hopefully my voice is louder than that. Yeah, and so I feel there's very little representation for women like myself, probably because they are still in the corporate world, or they're running their own businesses and they're too busy to be on social media. Most of their life is in real life, if you see what I mean. Whereas for me, I am a solo entrepreneur. I run my business. I have a couple of exciting projects on the go. You can see my pink top in the background. This will not be edited because I'm not about that life. Like, honestly, I'm not a content creator as such, but I do have opinions that I want to share with you. So this channel, Carefree Travels, is really about my entrepreneurial journey and everything I've learned that I want to share with you, that hopefully will inspire you to live your best, not just live your best life, but actually design the life of your dreams. Because I think it is possible for, you know, if you're watching this, you have a roof over your head, you have a good head on your shoulders. Yeah, all the cliches are coming out to play Saturday morning. Why not? You know, your imagination is, I'm not saying it's the only limitation, but if it's just a case of, you know, what you can talk about, why not? You know, talk about, make a video about. This is just a talking heads video, because that's another thing. Like, until we make it big, this is what it's going to be. No editing, just bare bones, you and me chatting. I hope you can relate. I don't know, because yeah, so, well, this is the thing. So at university, I was one of 20 women on my course. There were, let's say there were 200 students studying engineering in my first year at Oxford, studying engineering science. This is, everyone has to study engineering science for the first 2 years. I think it's the first 2 years before you specialize and branch off and do other things. So imagine, let's say the intake was 200 students that year. I was probably one of 20 women who started the course. 20 women did not graduate with me. No, 19 other women did not graduate with me. Some quit, some changed to different courses, some changed universities. I mean, some people didn't make it through to the second year. I mean, anyway, so a bunch of things happened. Anyway, let's get back to our chickens. So I distinctly remember when I was still an undergraduate, so it was a 4-year course. There was an event, like alumni who returned, and this woman, this female engineer, she looked at me and she said, you know, my name is Claire, by the way. Yes. She's like, you know what, Claire? Don't go into engineering if you want to make money. I distinctly remember this, and this was a while back. I know, I don't look as old as I am. I have a funny story about how the first time I came to Albania, because I'm in Albania now, but I was in Tirana. I was crossing the road. I was like just walking around Tirana, hoping like to find a place to like just live out my digital nomad fantasy of sitting down in a coffee shop, working on my laptop. And wow, I was crossing the road, or about to cross the road, and I saw this black man, and he was like, hey, auntie. And I was like, who is your aunt? Where is your auntie? Who is your auntie? Because I'm like, I have never met you in my life. Who are you? Why are you calling me auntie? So yeah, that burst my bubble of like, oh, I don't look a day over 59. But never mind. I'm joking. This is my sense of humor. And this is what I realized, like, it's so much easier just chatting to you like this. It's so much easier. And I don't know whether this is I don't know how this is gonna fall, where this is gonna fall, but eventually, don't worry. YouTube, you and I, we will get there. You will understand who I'm speaking to. I mean, I'm not nearly as polished as Stephanie Perry, who's like, hey, black women. Because that's the thing, I don't know if my content will necessarily resonate with black women, because I'm not like any of the black, okay, no, let me rephrase that. In the UK, I didn't feel particularly connected to other black women. Like, okay, so first of all, I didn't see them in school because I went to, okay, I didn't see them much in school. I was always one of like a handful at most. I think at one point, I was definitely the only black girl in my year. In the sixth form. And before that, I know you call them year something, but this is it, like, you know, auntie, just think like I'm your auntie's age probably. So it was still lower sixth and upper sixth when I was at school. And then before that, I was one of two. It was me and Temi. Temi, say hi. I mean, I don't know where you are in the world now, but you know, if you ever catch this video, Sherborne School for Girls. It's not even called Sherborne School for Girls anymore. It's called Sherborne Girls. And this is the weird thing. So on LinkedIn, I've been trying to to connect with the Alumni Society. And this woman, I don't know if, because LinkedIn, it feels like a bit of a ghost town sometimes. Like, I've had zero response, and I don't know. I do wonder if low-key she's thinking, oh, you never went to Sherburne Girls. Oh, yes, I did, miss. I really did. Aldermsted East. Yeah. Never mind. So yeah, I can hear the drilling and the grinding. Don't worry, there is a point to this video. So I'm talking about a bit more about my journey, and we're 15 minutes in. And you know what? I can talk the hind legs of a donkey. So, I mean, I'm trying to create a structure to this, sort of, kind of, but it's a chat really. And, you know, I hope it will get views, but also it's more about, I want this content to land with, I mean, if you're a black woman and you're thinking, yeah, I can relate, or, you know, it's not just a color thing, because I had one white colleague and one Asian colleague, and the Asian colleague, it's just the way that things work out sometimes, right? We all met in this company back in London. We all worked at the same company, and the French/English girl, okay, half French, half English, she, like, I met her a few years prior, and then the three of us ended up at the same company at the same time. And that's just because it's a small industry, and she was an energy specialist. Yeah, it's all vague to me now. And so was my Asian friend. So the Asian friend, nearly a decade ago now, was like, okay, peace out, London. Relocated to the Middle East, and now she's a rock star in the industry, loves it. Every time, you know, I contacted her, she was like, oh yes, you know, I'm like writing a book on the side, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And she just knocked it out of the park. She left the UK and she is flourishing out there, so that's wonderful. I mean, professionally, she's flourishing. She went out there with her husband, and they started a family there. She's really embraced her faith. It's like it's all going swimmingly. Well, yes and no, right? Because anyway, but I'm not here to tell you her business. I'm just trying to tell you that if you're not flourishing in the UK, you can go somewhere else. So my other friend, the half French, half English girl, she left the company where we were working and set up her own business for a time while her children were still small. And she, ironically, was like she was still working for the company, but as an independent consultant, so she's earning more. And that allowed her to just spend time with her children, you know, like work from home and have more control over, well, her professional life and her life overall. So she was always telling me, oh, just go freelance. But I think I was too scared to do it, right? And the thing about engineering, my experience of it, is that it's just such an archaic, stuck in the mud. And I'm not talking about sexy tech, right? I'm not talking about the people who are the techies who can work from anywhere in the world, the people who work for Google and IBM and Microsoft, right? Or Reddit, right? I'm talking about like engineers who design buildings, design electrical systems and mechanical systems in buildings. I'm talking about like old school heavy engineering. They want you in the office. Like during the pandemic, it was so funny because, right before the pandemic, it was so funny. We were fed this story of, oh no, you can't possibly work from home because if you work from home, then they didn't say it in so many words, but they wanted to have eyes on people. So why is it that when disaster struck and they sent an email around saying, oh, you can come into the office if you want to. Otherwise, you can work from home. And then all of a sudden, was it 80 to 90% of us were working from home, apart from the CAD guys, because, okay, so CAD is a design tool, right? And it requires, also we were told, it can require some pretty heavy hardware. Let's say heavy hardware, like specialist hardware. So the CAD guys, the CAD designers, I shouldn't say guys, the CAD designers may not have had the right tools at home, right? The right computers at home to be able to work from home. So I think initially they were coming in, and then by some magic they were working from home too. And I was thinking, And then I think maybe a year or 6 months, there was a report about working. So I ended up working from home for 15 months. And in those 15 months, I saved so much money on not commuting into London, into central London, because I did say Tottenham Court Road, right? So I was no longer commuting into Tottenham Court Road for, the round trip was 4 hours all in all. So I had to walk to the bus stop and then catch the bus, catch the train into central London. I'd come into St. Pancras from Bedfordshire. Because I think it's always important to live near an airport. Because you never know when you're going to need to leave the country. And boy, did we find that out during the lockdowns. But anyway, I digress. So I was commuting, and my commute was 4 hours, all told. And it was walking, catching the bus, catching a train. And then when I'd get into St. Pancras, into central London, it was quicker to walk to the office, and it was a half an hour walk. But yeah, it was quicker to walk during rush hour, right? So it was even quicker than catching a bus, and there was no point in catching the tube, even though the office was right outside. I think it's Tottenham Court Road Station. I'm pretty sure it is, but it was, actually, I nearly told you the street that it was on, but I won't. It was a long time ago now, because I'm free and clear. Like, I quit. I'll be celebrating the anniversary of my quitting of that company, resigning on April 9th, 2026. It will be 5 years. So I'm thrilled. Yes, so to cut a long story short, I don't see women like me on here talking about their careers in engineering. So I want to share the good parts and the, room for improvement stories. And this was all spurred on by my prep for International Women's Day. So now I work in women's health. I work as a nutritional therapy practitioner. Nobody ever knows what that is, but nobody ever understood what I did before. So at least with nutritional therapy, you can kind of think, oh, is it nutrition and therapy? Or is it like she's a nutritionist, but she's a therapist or something? At least it makes more sense than engineering consultant, because people were like, oh, what, you're in tech? And I was like, no, not sexy tech, heavy engineering, designing buildings. And then they're like, no, but engineers don't design buildings, architects design buildings. And I was like, yeah, it's a long story. It's a little bit like when you're making a film, or in the old days, how films were made, right? You would have, have you ever looked at the credit list after a movie, at the end of a movie, and you see that it's like, it involves thousands of people? It's the same for a tall building in pretty much anywhere in the world. There are a lot of people who are involved in the designing and then the construction of buildings, especially as buildings become more complex. But this channel is not about my previous career, and it's more actually about the transition of moving from being an employee to now being Carefree Travels, who travels working from my laptop. I don't work in a team. I'm my own boss. It is bliss. For me, it's bliss. I don't work on long projects that can last for 4 or 5 years, or that can go on hold, and I mean design and construction projects. None of that, honey. No more talking to architects. No more liaising with engineers and specialists, and I was going to say geologists, but I actually meant, what are those people called? The ecologists, that's it. None of that. So yeah, I used to certify buildings. So I used to, I used to get projects certified, but that is not something I want to talk about right now. Anyway, so my background, academic background, is engineering. And my second master's was in Surrey, was University of Surrey, was in biomedical engineering. And that is really where my interest has lain. It's the whole time I was working in engineering consultancy, I was devouring information and science and books about nutrition, metabolic disease, insulin resistance, all of those things, anything related to type 1, type 2 diabetes. Well, mainly type 2 diabetes, to be honest. So, and the reason why is because I pretty much, my health hit the wall. As a sustainable building design consultant, I had to take a lot of exams, professional exams. So I had a bit of a break. Let's say I graduated and then it took me 4 years after graduating from my first degree to end up in building, and let's just call it building engineering, right? In that field. So, and then from then on, I'd say the first 6 years I didn't have too many exams, but then 2012 hit, and oh my goodness, I was in a small team. This is a recurring theme throughout my career, and it's not just me, my previous career, that is, where I was in a team of 3. But little did I know, I had landed in a situation, as is often the case, where these 2 women had been promised different things. And then the director who promised them different things, left. So these 2 women, but one of them was very disappointed that she didn't get the promotion she was expecting. So she gave notice and she left. So there were 3 of us, and then there were 2. And the one who remained was my line manager. Which on the face is fine. The face of it is fine, or would have been fine. But when the girl who left to go, and she went volunteering, I think that's when she went to Vietnam. I was left holding the baby as well. Because everything that she could do, so the way it works in certification, let's just say that she was able to design a much greater range of buildings than I could. And the reason was that I had been working in the field for fewer years than her. So she could assess different types of buildings that I couldn't. And because she left, I had to get trained up on everything and qualified on everything that she could do that I could not yet do. So I was taking exams, oh my God, out the wazoo in 2012. And it was the year after my older brother, my only other sibling, mind you, had passed away. So I was bereaved. I was still, grieving and yeah, when I got the job, because it wasn't the year after I joined. So he passed away in the January of that year, and I joined that company in September. And oh my goodness, I don't know if they were trying to rehabilitate me through just piling on the pressure, but the pressure was immense, because on the one hand it was the 9 to 5 job, and then all of the training that I needed to do, all of the studying that I needed to do was out of hours. I thought I was going to lose my mind that year, and that is when the ish hit the fan, the proverbial hit the fan for my health. Because goodbye self-care. My line manager she was taskmaster. I don't know if she was on the spectrum. That's very common in engineering circles, by the way. But I think she had it in for me, and I think she was disgruntled anyway. I think she was ticked off that, let's call her Jasmine, that Jasmine had left, her holding the baby, and that I'd just come on board. And so Jasmine left, and now it's just me and Marsha. Let's call her Marsha. So Marsha had some things that she was working through on a personal level, which I'm not going to talk about. And she's also of Caucasian descent. Let's just say Caucasian. So again, I think I was actually the only black person in quite possibly the company for a really long time. And then this black girl came, and she was in the main company because we were in an offshoot. That company no longer exists, by the way. This is another thing about the field that I'm in. It's so kind of like, oh my God, in the 15 years, like within 3 years of joining, it was like the global recession. And I knew that construction would get hit first, because obviously people don't start building in recessions. But anyway, so here I am. It's 2012. And I am exam fodder. It's just one exam after another. And I mean, the good thing is some of them were open book exams, but I remember one of the exams wasn't, and the curriculum was kind of broad and vague, and it's a qualification that design consultants can take, ecologists can take, like almost anyone can take it who works in a field related to design and construction of buildings. So architects were taking it, students were taking it. I don't know if you've ever heard of a certification called LEED, which is Leadership in Environment and Energy Design. I think it's all a bit vague to me now, really, because when I passed those things, and I was like, 5 years ago, I was like, I'm done. And I just let all of that stuff go. Because the implementation is what matters. I have the technical know-how. Certifications, I think, are just a tool for... I personally have a pretty dim view of sustainability at this point, having worked in the industry and encountered the despondence, let's say, of the people who are involved in it. A lot of them don't really believe it. Some have drunk the Kool-Aid. Each to his own. So, getting back to our chickens. So yeah, 2012 is when my health started to decline rapidly. And it was I think, it was just factors. It was just the perfect storm of working all day, working overtime, studying on top of that, the pressure of having to take 3 or 4 exams in 12 months, having a crazy line manager who, she wasn't crazy, she was just evil. And she had issues. And she was also quite young, I think, for the responsibility. But at heart, this woman was a thug. And she was also one of the things that she did in her spare time was, let's just say martial arts. But I don't, it wasn't quite martial arts though, because I think with martial arts, there's an element of, you know, ethics and morality and wow, yeah, I know. I'm really going for it here. Ooh, so nice to be free from the social media policy. But yeah, I think the mindset piece was missing because hers wasn't a martial art from the East. So I think she was venting her frustration, but I think she had like a toe injury at one point. So you can sort of probably imagine what she was doing. And yeah, I don't think there was nothing zen about her. And she had a real problem with me, but I feel like she just had a real problem with everyone, because otherwise Jasmine wouldn't have left. So anyway, and before Jasmine left, there was this other woman who was her line manager who had promised her a job and then promised, anyway. So, be that as it may, 2012 was the beginning of my issues, my major issues in my health. Up until that point, I had been, I'm gonna say really healthy, really strong, flexible, all of those things. I had stamina. I mean, I was that woman who was, I didn't need motivation. I was in the gym 3 times a week, hour and a half, weights, cardio, really going for it. I was like protein shakes that works. I was doing it all except for the stimulants. But yeah, I don't know if you remember a company called Maxi Muscle. I don't even know if they're called Maxi Muscle anymore. Anyway, I mean, I'm sure they're still in business, but I don't take those supplements anyway. But so 2012 is when it all went kaplunk with my health. And that was the beginning of the troubles. And then it took 4 years to get diagnosed. Oh my God, I cannot speak English today. So it took 4 years for me to get diagnosed from 2012 to 2016. I kept on going to the GP and saying, oh, you know, this is a problem, that's a problem. And they told me, oh, you know, yeah, do this, lose weight, blah, blah, blah. But it was never, it was inconclusive. It was the NHS. My bad. Because my mum had told me, get private health insurance. And I was like, yeah. But again, I was fit and healthy, going to the gym, I was great shape, full of energy. I was the Energizer Bunny. I was like, yeah, health insurance. So anyway, 2012 hits, things started to go south. But I didn't, because I'm still quite young, I think I just didn't really take it all in. And as I said, I was still grieving. And so I just thought, oh, you know, yeah, it was just like once I had, so yeah, what it was, I don't know. This is not for children. Okay, so I had an event, a gynecological event. Went to the GP because I was freaked out by what I had witnessed. I didn't know that my body could do that. I went to see the GP and she was like, oh yeah, it's called flooding, you know, blasé as you like. But that was the GP that my mother didn't like either. I think that GP was low-key depressed, low-key, high-key, highly depressed, but she's just like, yeah, your arm dropped off. It's okay. I mean, just sew it back on. Not really a big deal. Maybe you need to lose weight. But anyways, this woman, I don't know, she was really going through it. But that's the thing, like I'm very aware of when people are going through something that they're not necessarily trying to share, which is handy now that I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. I can read energy in that way, but yes, the doctor's like, yeah, you should walk, but not too much. And I was like, what? Because that commute, that like 30-minute walk, even though I was working for a different company at the time, I was still commuting from outside of London, Watford, if you know it, into central London. So I was coming into Euston rather than St. Pancras, but they're both central London stations, and I was walking from Euston. It was literally, that company was like next door. Was it Warren Street, Tube? I think it was Warren Street Tube. Yeah, it wasn't far. It was like a stone's throw. And yeah, and she was like, oh yes, but that's too far to walk. And I was like, what? But yeah, the woman was I feel like she was a bit detached from reality, because that was when I was going to the gym 3 times a week and walking, like power walking to the train station. Like I was practically running to the station at that point. It was like 10, 15 max. I was in fine shape. So I was like, and she was like, yes, but that's too much walking. And I was like, what? And then she's like, but I want you to lose weight. And I was like, really? And I'm like, so I'm like, how am I supposed to? Because back then I didn't know any different from the majority of people, which is, if you want to lose weight, you reduce your calories and you up your activity, right? So I was like, you want me to walk less? And walking for me wasn't even exercise. Even power walking, I didn't think of as exercise. I was just like, well, yeah, I needed to get from A to B. I needed to get from home to work. So I needed to commute. And there was no way I was driving into London. So public transport it was. So yeah, she left me so confused after that appointment. But anyway, I think at one point, not too long after that, within that 4-year period, I do remember signing up for like a private health check. I can't remember exactly when it was. So I'm thinking I must have had private health insurance at some point. And I think it was when I was working at a company called ACOM. And I think I went for an assessment then. Yeah, anyway, I digress. So in 2012, I also gained a stone. That was from 2011 to 2012. I gained a stone like that. And at the time, I thought, because it was shortly after bereavement, I don't know. I could see that my weight had gone up, and I didn't realize it was like my body's reaction to stress and grief and trauma that was just piling up. And actually, that stone, I have not lost it. That's where my weight has stayed. Well, it hasn't stayed at that. That's another story. But anyway, so I got 2012 is when, the wheels came off. My body was like, nope, no more. And my weight shot up with the stone. So a stone is 14 pounds, 6 point something kilos. And that, it's still with me now. It's still registering on the scale now. It would not budge. And that was the beginning of the troubles, really, because up until that point, I had not worried about my weight at all. It was easy to manage. But so what happened in that year is that I started experiencing gynecological issues, and then I was only diagnosed in 2016 because I had an appointment. I made an appointment with my mother's gynecologist. And the reason that's important is because my mother lives abroad. She lives in Europe. And I was living in the UK. She was living in mainland Europe. So I just booked an appointment with her gynecologist thinking, it's routine. I just want to check that everything's okay. And that's when I had the shock and surprise and horror of my life, because the gynecologist was like, she examined me. And then she did, this is my tripod, she did an ultrasound. Yes, I won't say what kind, but the kind of, if you're a woman, and And she was like, okay, took her gloves off, and we go back to her office, because obviously this is a private, it's not an NHS anything, it's private practice. She sits at her desk, I sit opposite her, and she's like, my goodness, there were so many fibroids And I was like, what? She was like, there were so many fibroids that I actually couldn't make out your womb. And I was like, excuse me? Because I was thinking, pap smear, done. No. She was like, oh. She's like, do you want to have children? And at this point, I'm in my 30s, and I'm like, what? I mean, children, maybe. I mean, I assumed they were still in the realm of possibility. Like, I have not given it much thought because I was not in a relationship. Like I told you, I was married to my job, right? So, or maybe I didn't tell you, but yes, I was married to my career, and I was like, I could not see the wood for the trees between the 4-hour commute and the working all day and the studying all night. I mean, I was too busy to even, and she was like, yeah, I mean, and she said, oh, well, you know, she couldn't prescribe me the drug that I needed, but she was like, she wrote it down, and she's like, when you go back to the UK, take this to your doctor and ask them to prescribe it. And I was like, that is not the way, that is the way that things might work in other countries, but that's not the way it works under the National Health Service in the UK. So I go back to the UK, take out private health insurance. Because the process was so long, I saw a GP, and maybe that was my mistake because, well, it was a pre-existing condition. So I just came, it didn't even occur to me not to declare it when I took out health insurance. But I mean, it still worked out in the end. So bear with me. Go to the GP, and she tries to just talk me off the ledge. She's like, yes, okay. She was looking at my ultrasound printout, and she's like, oh, it's really poor quality, and you know, yeah, 5 centimeter fibroid. I mean, you know, she'd seen worse, because again, I think health professionals are just like, they've seen it all. They're so over it, especially by the time they hit, I don't know, their 50s, they're just like, whatever. I mean, I had been chased by a doctor earlier on. I'd had some other gynecological issues, but they were here, not down below my breasts. I'd had